Hey Astro Kids, and welcome back. And in today's video, we'll be talking about Rahu through the Ketu Nakshatras according to the Vimshottari Dasha scheme. So this will be a brand new series of Rahu through each of the 27 Nakshatras. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. So firstly, you have to understand what is Rahu and what is Ketu. So as you can see on the screen here, there is a diagram of what these entities are astronomically. These are the nodes of the moon. So when the moon intersects through the sun's ecliptic path, it creates an interception point where these nodes occur, and the one that is ascending is known as the north node or Rahu, and the one that is descending is known as the south node or Ketu. There's also a great story behind Rahu and Ketu in Vedic astrology, and it comes from the story of the churning of the ocean of milk. And this was a story that happened long ago in the heavens, where there was a war between the Devatas and the Asuryas. And during this war, there were many casualties, there were many difficulties. This was a very terrible and destructive war that took place. And there were Devatas and Asuryas that were not able to come back to life. So the Devatas took notice of this, and they joined together in a council to try to come up with a solution of how to save this war, of how to turn this around in their favor. And they sought out the advice of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma then directed them towards Lord Vishnu, who then gave them the advice to churn the great ocean of milk. But to do this, Lord Vishnu said that they needed to work with the Asuryas, that they needed a peace treaty because they were unable to churn this great ocean on their own. They would also need the support of the Asuryas to do this. And the solution to their problem was to receive the Amrita, which is the elixir of immortality that arises from this great ocean when churned. And in order to do this, they also needed to use a great mountain as the staff to churn this ocean, and to use the supreme serpent as a rope to churn this great ocean. So the Asuryas and the Devatas stood on either side of this serpent, pulling and churning this ocean. And as they did this, many treasures came up from the ocean, including a great poison as well. And when they arrived at the Amrita, the Asuryas took it and ran. So when this happened, the Devatas sought out the advice of Lord Vishnu once again, and Lord Vishnu was able to disguise himself as a beautiful woman who was able to charm and enchant the Asuryas while passing over the Amrita behind his back to the Devatas. However, there was one Asurya named Swarbhanu who noticed that this elixir was only going to the Devatas. He was concerned that this elixir would not go to the Asuryas, and so he disguised himself as one of the Devatas and sat between the sun and the moon. And he was able to get a drop of this elixir before the sun and the moon exposed him as an imposter. And so as this happened, Lord Vishnu went back into his normal form and was able to behead this entity known as Swarbhanu. And so as this elixir went into the throat of this being, his head had already become immortal, and the elixir fell into his body, which also made the body immortal as well. But the head and the body became eternally separated. And so we now know the head as Rahu, or the north node, and the body as Ketu, or the south node. And so the sun and the moon are great enemies to Rahu and Ketu. And it is said that during an eclipse, Rahu and Ketu are the shadow entities, or the darkness that tries to engulf or consume the sun or moon. So these are the shadow entities that takes away or conceals or covers the light of the luminaries. And we can see this on the screen that when an eclipse occurs, this is when Rahu and Ketu are close to the sun and moon in a natal chart. So what does Rahu and Ketu represent then in astrology? Rahu, being a severed head, is all about our intellect. It is all about the mind. So those who have a strong influence of Rahu tend to be extremely intelligent, extremely gifted in their intelligence, and very much drawn to knowledge, drawn to gaining more and more information. Also, the head comes with a brain which has desires. So Rahu is known to have great desires. Those who have an influence of Rahu strong in their chart are extremely ambitious, extremely goal-oriented. There's a hunger, as Rahu is the head that seeks to devour the sun and moon. However, Rahu has no body. Rahu is eternally detached from his body. So therefore, the things that Rahu consumes just fall right back out. And so there's also a feeling of emptiness or lack that is associated with Rahu. It is an endless drive to seek out these desires, to seek out these obsessions that we are after in life. So Rahu in our natal chart shows where our greatest desires are. It is the whole reason why we have incarnated into this lifetime, because without those desires, we will break free and detach from this physical material plane. So Rahu has a mission, has a destiny, has a desire that we have taken birth to move towards. So you will find that Rahu in your natal chart is where there is a hunger for experience, where there is a drive to achieve something. In the area of Rahu, there tends to be a lack of experience because of this detachment from the body. There's no feeling, there's no connection, there's no roots that is attached to this, only the curiosity of the mind and the hunger to achieve something in life. So Rahu is not only where we desire or what we seek to achieve in life, but it is also what we tend to be afraid of or what is unknown to us. Therefore, Rahu also represents things that are foreign, things that are out of our awareness, things that we lack experience in. Ketu, though, being the body of this entity of Swarbanu, is holding the DNA programming, is holding the roots, the foundation of who we are and where we are coming from. So Ketu is the shadow body that has to do with our past life experience, the things that come intuitively to us, that come naturally to us. Ketu is where we feel comfortable. It is where we have a great deal of experience and understanding. Therefore, where Rahu is about intelligence, Ketu is about wisdom and intuition. Ketu also, though, being the body without a head, has no direction, has no mind to see where it's going. So Ketu also becomes very detached. It has no inclination towards desire or towards focusing in on the material world. Again, it is our roots of where we are coming from in the past. So Ketu also is detached or disillusioned by this world. So wherever Ketu is in our chart, there is a tendency to detach in that area. And Ketu is known as the moksha karaka for this reason, because Ketu is the answer to liberating our souls from this physical incarnation. Ketu is the key to breaking free from this world, to receiving the true liberation, the true spiritual connection. Ketu, though, being related to past life experience, also is connected to the past in general, to antiques, to history, to ancient knowledge. Now, both of these entities, which really these are all one, Ketu and Rahu are head and a body of the same entity. So you can't have them without one another. And this is why Rahu and Ketu always are exactly 180 degrees apart. They go together. We have to understand how to balance these energies in our natal chart. But these are very tumultuous and powerful energies as well. Ketu and Rahu, out of all of the graha in astrology, are some of the trickiest energies to manage and to deal with. If you find yourself leaning more into Rahu, you are going into obsession, into attachment, entanglement with this material manifestation. Rahu is the Maya of this world, the great illusion of this world, which is a reality that we exist in, but it is limitation. It is something that doesn't last. It is the mirage of this existence, the thing that we chase after, of the money, the power, the fame, but that can easily disappear and go away. And so both of these energies of Ketu and Rahu are extremely destructive and chaotic. They are difficult energies to manage. If you find yourself leaning into Ketu, there is a possibility of detaching too much, of becoming too disillusioned from this world, of actually phasing out of reality itself. At the same time, if you move away from Ketu, you lose that foundation, you lose those roots, that spiritual inclination of where you are coming from in life. If you move too far away from Rahu, you are avoiding the purpose of why you have come into this lifetime. You're avoiding those karmas, those lessons that your soul is moving you in the direction of. So there's a need to balance out these two extremes in our natal chart. Now you can see on the diagram here that Rahu and Ketu, again, are always going to be 180 degrees apart. So that means that the house that is opposite to itself is going to play a role in this destiny, in this karmic area of your life. Along with this, though, Rahu and Ketu affect the houses that are 5th and 9th from its position. So on the screen here, the example shows that Rahu is in the 1st house. This means that Rahu will also affect the 5th house and the 9th house, because these are the Dharma Trikona houses. So these themes, these areas of life come into focus when we are looking into Rahu's influence in the chart. The same can be said for Ketu in the 7th house, that if the 7th house is about relationships and the 3rd house is about communication, 11th house is about groups, then all 3 of these houses are going to play a role in Ketu's position in the 7th house. So let's talk a little bit about these Ketu Nakshatras that we're going to get into today. Ketu Nakshatras are carrying this energy of Ketu, but we have to remember that these planets are not really the rulers of the Nakshatras. The Nakshatras are ruled over by deities. The planet is telling us something important about the Nakshatras, but not necessarily the ultimate ruler. And what Ketu tells us about these Nakshatras is that it's about detachment, it's about letting go, it's about getting away from the monkey mind, getting away from obsession, getting away from this chase for superficial things in life and actually looking inward, connecting to the heart space, connecting to the truth, to your roots, to what you are spiritually connected to. And for that reason, all 3 of these nakshatras are closely connected to the ancestors and to how the ancestors are playing a very important role within our lives. So let's start off with Ashwini. Ashwini is the first asterism in the zodiac. It is all about new beginnings. It is the dawn time. It is where everything begins. And if you're looking for where Ashwini is placed in the zodiac, you can find this in 0 degrees till 13 degrees 20 minutes of sidereal Aries. So Ashwini is connected with the Ashwini Kumars, which are the twin horses which were the sons of the wife of Surya. So this has a close connection with the sun. Ashwini again is about the dawn time, the new beginning. It is the first light. So everything about Ashwini has to do with beginnings, has to do with initiating, with innovation, with forward thinking, entrepreneurship, with originality. It is the beginning, it is the start, it is the ability to take the initiative. So this is definitely an energy that is geared towards leadership, that is geared towards just jumping in and making things happen instantly. And so one of the negative sides of this asterism can be impulsivity, can be jumping into things and getting into obstacles by not fully thinking it through. At the same time, the daredevil nature, the instinctual nature of jumping in and making things happen makes this a brilliant nakshatra, because these are the innovators, these are the trendsetters, these are the people who embark us out onto a new area of life. These are the pioneers of the zodiac. Ashwini tends to have a lot of energy, and again, this is connected to the twin horses, which are the Ashwini Kumars, and Ashwa actually means horse. So the horse becomes a huge symbol of this nakshatra, and this tells us something extremely important. Ashwini tends to have the energy, strength, and enthusiasm of a horse. This is a very strong nakshatra that is full of life, that is full of energy, full of spontaneity. There's a lot of activity that is associated with Ashwini. This can be a very sporty nakshatra, can be always on the go, always in perpetual movement. There is a sense of adventure, of courage, of exploration that is connected to Ashwini. Ashwini can be very charming as well. We think about a horse being a very beautiful creature, so typically those who are dominated by Ashwini have very attractive looks, can be very witty, very charming, very much a beautiful individual. And with this asterism, it is all about beauty. It is all about the comforts, the enjoyments of life. But this asterism is also seeking excitement, is seeking adventure, is seeking spontaneity. Ashwini is ingenious because of this ability to just embark out on a new journey, this ability to explore, to create new pathways, to push ahead into new areas. So this comes with a great deal of intelligence. It comes with a great deal of brilliance. So let's talk about the next asterism, which is called Magha. And Magha can be found from 0 degrees till 13 degrees 20 minutes of sidereal Leo. Magha corresponds with the star Regulus, which is known as the royal star, and it is connected with royalty, with tradition, with power. But the meaning of Magha is sometimes misunderstood. Remember that this is related to Ketu, which is about detachment, which is about disillusionment, which is about breaking free from those attachments. So this asterism, on a negative sense, can be about being power hungry, about being vain and being focused on external forms of power. But the true power that is associated with this nakshatra is actually about your own sense of power, your own sense of royalty, of regalness. It is about understanding the power that is within you. Being your own king, your own queen is connected with this energy. Magha is deeply connected with the ancestors, because when we think about royalty, we think about power that is passed down through the generation, passed down through the bloodline. So Magha is an asterism that is interested deeply in their family, in their history, in their roots. This is an asterism that has a deep and profound connection with the ancestors. And on an intuitive level, this is a nakshatra that can be guided and influenced by their ancestors who have passed on. Magha is an asterism that tends to have a large heart, that is about love, that is about giving freely to others without expecting anything in return. There's a natural tendency to rise to power, to fame, to prestigious positions in relationship to Magha. Again, this is said to be a blessing of the ancestors. And with this, there can be a feeling of great protection and luck that is given to the individuals dominated by this nakshatra. Definitely, there is a strong sense of individuality that comes with Magha. This is really about self-realization, understanding who you really are, understanding the roots, the essence of your true self. However, this can also manifest in an egoistic way, in a pompous way, in a way that is just for show. With this asterism, there also tends to be a calling towards destiny, towards a purpose, towards a mission in life. There's a feeling of being destined or called towards a specific path. So let's talk about the last asterism, which is Mula. Mula is, again, a Ketu Nakshatra. So again, we see these themes of liberation, of detachment. But here, this is a very challenging one because Mula is ruled over by Naruti, which is the goddess of famine, of disease, of death, and destruction. At the same time, this goddess has the ability to remove obstacles, to remove illusions, fears, and destruction. And so this asterism is all about breaking down things to the roots. The symbol of this asterism is a bundle of roots tied together. So immediately we get this theme of karmas, of difficulties, of traumas that are bundled up, things that are deeply ingrained in us that we become overly attached to. And the lesson with that, again, is about detachment, is about letting go of all of that baggage, about working through those difficulties, karmas, fears, even addictions can be related to this asterism as well. Mula, when it is operating from a higher vibration, is about following the righteous path in life. It is about being noble, about being truthful, being good in your intentions in life, taking a higher, more principled path. And so you can find this asterism from 0 degrees to 13 degrees 20 minutes of sidereal Sagittarius. It is all about that higher dharmic path in life. And this can relate Mula to religion in some cases on a lower, more materialistic level. But at the same time, this can also take a person towards spirituality, towards self-realization, towards meditation, yoga, towards all sorts of mystical practices as well. Definitely Mula is about breaking free from the constraints of traditional religion and finding true spirituality, true love in their hearts, true connection with spirit that is not bound by any religious doctrines or dogmas. Mula is an asterism that is also associated with magic and mysticism, and there can be some sudden transformations and reversals that occur in the life of those who have powerful Mula positions. These are people who can experience tragic situations, sudden reversals, sudden changes that awaken them to a deeper truth. Mula definitely is about getting down to the depths, getting down to the deeper, darker truths. There's a psychological nature to this asterism, and this is a very prominent nakshatra in the lives of psychotherapists, of those who are seeking out what are the traumas, what is the baggage, what are the roots, and this is all about the roots. Mula is also occupying the part of the sky that the galactic center can be found in. So it's about getting to the root of our existence, as the galactic center is the point from which all life in our galaxy was born and created from. So what happens then when Rahu goes into Ashwini? Well, again, Ashwini is all about this connection with speed, with vitality, with energy. And we know that the sun is related to Ashwini. Ashwini is the place where the sun reaches exaltation. And the sun is all about our health and vitality, our strength, our self-confidence, our ability to take action in life. Our energy levels are seen here. So Ashwini is related to health and healing. The Ashwini Kumars were known for their great works of spreading out healing knowledge and herbs to the people. So definitely this asterism is focused on healing, on helping those in need. So when Rahu is functioning at a higher level in Ashwini, these are people who can be extremely focused on wanting to help those in need, wanting to make sacrifices for the greater good, wanting to practice healing, to spread knowledge of healing to those in need. Sometimes this can be a position that has knowledge of medicine, of herbs, of all sorts of healing remedies. And definitely with this asterism, there can be a draw towards mysticism. We talked about how Rahu is a shadowy entity and how Ketu is also one of these shadowy entities, indicating things that are invisible or unknown or happening at a karmic and unknown level in our lives. So these people tend to be drawn towards mysticism, towards occult knowledge, deep spirituality. There is a desire to find truth and meaning, to expand one's consciousness, one's awareness through this deeper insight, this deeper spiritual wisdom. When we talk about Ashwini, the Ashwini Kumars are sometimes referred to as the dawn and the dusk, which are times when darkness and light touch. So this is indicating an in-between world state. So this is pulling these people in this direction of finding that deeper meaning, finding that deeper insight. At the same time, Rahu and Ashwini can increase some of those qualities of impulsiveness, of speed, of energy and vitality. And so with this, there can be a tendency to get bored easily when Rahu is placed in Ashwini. These are people who need constant stimulation, constant activity. These are people who can be very active, very sporty, very adventurous, wanting to seek out new things in life, wanting to seek out innovation. And there can be a brilliance to having Rahu in Ashwini. These people can come up with brand new ideas, brand new ways of seeing things, and can change the perspective of others as well. One of the difficulties with having this position is becoming too impulsive about reacting to situations very quickly. So this is definitely something that you want to control. You want to find a sense sense of peace and balance in you, and to not easily get yourself drawn into conflicts and situations. This placement can easily have a knee-jerk reaction to all sorts of situations. There's a need to really find that calmness, to find a sense of self-control, and to not give in to those impulses. Rahu and Ashwini can definitely increase the strength in an individual as well. There can be a dominance about this placement, an ability to assert yourself, to take control of situations. And you want to be very careful about how you're using this, because this can come out in an aggressive way, in a way that is harmful to others. So the positive side of Rahu and Ashwini is about helping others, is about doing good in the world, but there's also a shadow side about causing harm and destruction towards others as well. One of the greatest qualities about having Rahu and Ashwini is that it increases your courage. It increases your ability to take risks, to go for what you want, to forge your way ahead in life. And again, this can make you an excellent leader. In particular, because this is related to spirituality and mysticism, you could be seen as a spiritual leader or some kind of occult leader also. So when Rahu goes into Magha, again, this is related to the connection with the ancestors, but Rahu is about actually moving in a direction of your own desires. So there's a conflict that is happening here between Rahu and Magha, and this is all about, again, this self-realization, finding your true self, your true essence, your true roots. This becomes extremely important. When Rahu is placed in Magha Nakshatra, you can find that you are guided by your ancestors. There is a subtle push to move in the direction that is suited for you. So you have someone who is actually connected to you, someone who is guiding you through the other side. With this placement, you get the blessings of the ancestors, which can give you a great deal of rise to fame, to power, to success in life. But again, there is a contradiction that's happening here, because Magha is about the power that it comes from within. It is about understanding yourself. So with this position, you want to be careful about letting external success and gratification get to your head. Rahu in Magha tends to give a feeling of wanting to be someone who is great, of wanting to have the credentials, wanting to have the name, wanting to have the fame, wanting to show people who you are. But there's a great need to go inward to actually find out who are you really and what is the truth within you that gives you the true power, the true fulfillment in life, rather than chasing after external validation and positions of power. When this is functioning at a higher level, this can definitely give you a strong sense of self. You know who you are, and you're very comfortable and confident in who you are and your capabilities. But there's an internal struggle with this placement. There's a side of you that wants to honor your ancestors and your tradition, but there's also a side of you that wants to stay true to yourself and your own ambitions. So there's a need to balance out these extremes when you have Rahu and Magha. This is definitely a position that can make you a leader, can make you an influencer, can put you in a position of power and authority. Many presidents have Rahu and Magha, so this is definitely a position that can take you to that level where you are seen, where you are recognized, where you are showcasing your skills and abilities to the world. But again, it's about finding that sense of validation within yourself, finding your true self. Definitely, this can make you charismatic, very likable. You can attract a lot of attention to yourself. And this is an excellent placement for actors, for performers. With Rahu and Leo, you might have a natural talent of acting, of really showcasing your skills and abilities to the public. When this is functioning at a lower level, there is a tendency to use power incorrectly. So you can abuse the power and position that is given to you. And again, you have to remember the true power that is within you. If you abuse power with this position, position, you can find a great fall, a great loss in your life. You lose that reputation, you lose that position that is gifted to you. Rahu and Magha can also make you interested in politics, again, because of this drive towards status, towards success, towards prominence. You care a lot about your status, about your reputation, about how others see you. And you're always seeking to keep your reputation clean, always seeking to do what is right, to showcase to others that you are able to accomplish things in life. This position can also give you an attraction towards luxuries, towards comforts, towards the pleasures of life. You seek to have a kingly life with Rahu and Magha. And this can definitely make you a spendthrift. You're not afraid to spend money on the things that you love, on quality. You are all about quality over quantity. You can even find yourself going to certain brands, to certain designers for the things that you want, over just going to the simple or mundane objects of life. You really seek to have a life of enjoyment and comfort and to feel important in life. Sometimes Rahu and Magha can also create tragic situations related to your father. So there can be an absent father in your life, there can be the loss of a father early on, or there can be disagreements with your father, difficulties getting along, or even health scares that are related to your fatherly figure as well. Depending upon how Rahu is placed in your chart, this can also give you a strong link to your father. You can appear similar to your father. You can have similar qualities related to your fatherly figure as well. And again, this is a position that can make you a great entertainer, someone who is able to really showcase your skills to the masses, really influence, impact. You have this ability to be dramatic, to be charismatic, to really spark life into a situation. So typically this is a placement that draws individuals towards acting, towards drama and performance. At the same time, this position can take you away from caring about the crowd or the audience or the people who you are involved with. There's a need to find your true self, and you can have a very strong sense of autonomy. This placement can also make you extremely romantic, and there can be a lot of wanting to show off or wanting to make your partner feel special. But you want to be careful about obsessing over your partner with this placement, because there can definitely be a loss or an upset, a disappointment that comes with this. Remember that Rahu is the illusion. It is the things in our life, but those things can disappear. So with this Rahu energy, it's important to not get too attached in your connections. This placement definitely gives you an elegance, a charm about yourself. You're able to flatter others. You're able to make others feel good in your presence. And you're able to really get what you want out of situations due to this charm, this elegance, this grace in the way that you carry yourself. You also like to receive flattery and appreciation from others as well. Rahu and Magha can also give you a great interest in knowledge. You can be a very intelligent person, seeking to learn, seeking to gather information. This energy is definitely connecting you with researching ability, with the ability to assimilate and to absorb a great amount of information. But you want to make sure, again, similar to your showcase or your reputation, that this information is not shallow or superficial. You want to be able to absorb more depth and meaning through your studies as well. This definitely is a placement that can make you an excellent student. You can excel in your studies. You can get all sorts of degrees and credentials with this placement, which becomes extremely important to you. Rahu and Magha tends to be a position that has no problem with being the center of attention. You enjoy entertaining people. You enjoy being seen and noticed. You enjoy being successful in life and having prestige. This becomes extremely important to you. You want to be careful though, because this is also related to your connection with your children. Again, Magha is about the royalty, it's about the tradition, about the bloodline itself. So we pass down our power, we pass down our traditions through our family. So with this position, the troubles or difficulties that you may face in your life that is related to your family is something that you can pass down to your children as well. With this placement, you want to be careful about trying to live your dreams through your children, trying to make them go along with what you want them to be. You have to learn to allow people to be who they are and to choose their own path. At the same time, you're a very loving and supportive parent also. Another thing about this placement is that this can make you a big risk taker. Leo is the original 5th house of the zodiac, which is all about gambling, that is all about speculation. So you could find yourself with an interest in gambling and investments. This can be an excellent position for making and generating wealth through speculation. And definitely with this placement, again, you're not afraid to spend. And this can not only be spending on yourself, but Leo itself is about the heart. It's about love. So this placement, you could find yourself spending a lot for your loved ones, for your friends, for those who are closest to you. Typically with this placement, you tend to give a lot to others, but expect very little in return. So you have a huge heart. You're a very caring person. But again, you want to be careful about controlling others. Definitely with Rahu and Magha, the key to everything with this placement is remaining humble. The negative side of this is becoming too egocentric, too vain, too pomp in your way of expressing yourself and approaching things in life. So the more that you are able to give back, the more that you're able to remain humble in your greatness, in your success, the more that you will derive happiness and joy from life. This placement can create some disruptions. We talked earlier about how Rahu and Ketu can be destructive forces. And so similar to Rahu and Ashwini, there can be some sort of dramatic event in your life. And this is especially true when you get into ego, when you get too much into arrogance and pomp. With this placement, you can find that there's a lot of karmic upsets. There can sometimes be tragic events that can play out in your life where you lose things that you become deeply attached to, or even people who you become deeply attached to as well. Definitely this placement is all about having fun, enjoying yourself, coming from the heart. Again, it comes back to understanding who you really are and finding the power and joy of being in that space of who you are. So when Rahu goes into the Mula Nakshatra, this is a placement that can be extreme because Sagittarius is the zone where Mula falls, and Sagittarius has a dual nature to it. But even Mula itself has great extremes as it is ruled over by this goddess of destruction, but also the goddess that can take away destruction as well. So when Rahu comes into the Mula Nakshatra, this is all about untangling those roots. Again, getting to those things that you become deeply entrenched in, deeply attached to, unpacking that suffering, letting go of it, not allowing yourself to carry that burden with you. So when Rahu comes into Mula, typically this is going to draw you towards religion, towards philosophy, towards spirituality on a higher level. This placement can make you very wise, very much into discovering truth, discovering spiritual knowledge. At the same time, when this is coming from a negative space, this can make you overly religious. You can become dogmatic. You can become very controlling with your belief systems, and even violent towards others who are not on the same page as what you believe. There's definitely a fighting spirit about Rahu and Mula. You will fight and champion for whatever your belief system is. So at a higher level, this is about fighting for the people. It's about humanitarian causes. But at a lower level, it becomes about enforcing your dogma onto other people. This placement could also make you arrogant, can get you into a selfish mode of caring only about desires in life, caring only about passions, addictions, obsessions, things that you become deeply attached to. But at a higher level, there's an ability to be humble, to be caring, caring, to be supportive of others. This placement makes you a great leader in your ability to help those in need, to stand up for the rights of others. This placement could definitely attract you towards meditation, towards yoga, towards all sorts of spiritual practices that give you a sense of clarity, a sense of enlightenment. You're on a quest for truth, on a quest for meaning, for purpose in life. And you're someone who can't stand injustice, who can't stand anything that inhibits others for being in their truth, being aligned with their beliefs. Again, this makes you a champion for the underdog. It makes you someone who is able to stand up for the rights of others. Many social activists have been born with Rahu in Mula. Sometimes this could also make you a revolutionist, someone who is against the government, someone who's against restraints, against anything that puts oppression on the people. And this can get you at odds with people in high-ranking positions, at odds with those who control society. You're all about the freedom and upliftment of the people. This definitely makes you someone who takes your ideas, your philosophies, your principles very seriously. You are all about being moral, about being righteous, about taking a higher path in life. This becomes extremely important to you. At times, you can stir up some destruction and chaos in your pursuit, in your crusade to try to create a sense of equality. So it's very important that you understand, where are these beliefs coming from, and are they truly aligned with yourself? This is similar to Ashwini in the sense that there is a speed, there's energy, there's impulse behind the Mula Nakshatra. So definitely you have very little patience for any game playing, any nonsense, anything that is not getting straight to the point. You're a person who likes to get to the bottom line, who likes to understand things for what they are. You don't really like to beat around the bush with this placement. And so this can also come across as very intense towards others. And this placement can definitely make you very intense in your relationships with others as well. In particular, Sagittarius is opposing the sign of Gemini. So there can be issues related to your siblings. This placement can show separation from siblings or loss of sibling or some kind of indifference. There's an indifference in your belief systems or the way that you are interacting with your siblings with this placement. In matters of love, this can also manifest as jealousy, as intensity, possessiveness. There can be a feeling of insecurity or lack in your relationships and a tendency to hold on very tightly. Again, this is about this bundle of roots where you're holding on to things that are no longer serving you. So with this placement, definitely when you experience loss, when you experience detachment from people who are meaningful to you, there's a feeling of deep loss and frustration. There's a lot of emotional tension and difficulty, extreme pain in these situations of breakups and difficulties with others. You become enmeshed, entangled in your relationships, in your connections. And it's very important to free yourself from these difficulties, to work through this rather than trying to hold on to the past. There is a tendency with Rahu and Mula to get trapped in the past and to not live in the present, and this can create a great deal of misery and suffering. This placement could definitely take you to extremes. Again, there is a side to this asterism that can be very religious, very much dogmatic, forceful, aggressive in trying to push your beliefs, your ideologies onto others. But there can also be a side to this asterism that is spiritual, that is for humanity, that is for the upliftment of others. This placement could also manifest in extremes in terms of your behaviors, addictions, obsessions, all sorts of behaviors that can create conflict and difficulties in your life. This placement is really good for anyone who is a motivational speaker, a preacher, a teacher, someone who is able to influence others with your belief, with your philosophy. You spread wisdom and enlightenment to others. Sometimes when you become too arrogant about your beliefs, too forthright, too much into getting into conflicts talks with people, you could also experience a fall from your position, a fall from that status that you have as far as your belief system. So you want to be very careful about how you are approaching others. You can lose the support of others by trying to force others to follow your truth, your philosophy. The biggest lesson of having this position of Rahu in Mula is to let go of dogmas, to let go of restrictions, to let go of anything that entraps you into a belief system that is restrictive. This is all about finding your own truth, finding what is true to yourself. So this placement is excellent for meditation, excellent for going inward and discovering your own inner divinity, discovering your own connection to God, rather than seeking this out in an external system or structure.